Hello, welcome to St. Joseph's Parish in Ottawa on Palm Sunday of the Lord's Passion. This year's Passion Week begins with a commemoration of the entrance into Jerusalem and the reading of the Passion according to St. Luke, which is very different from the other synoptic Gospels' Passions accounts. Yes, we hear about the weaknesses of the disciples, the wickedness of the leaders who plot his death, and the cruelty of the soldiers who carry out his execution. But these events are not what Luke emphasizes in his count of the Passion. For the author of this gospel, the emphasis is on Jesus as he faces the violence and darkness of his world, trying to do the Father's will. What we are asked to think about today as we reflect on this gospel is Jesus' fidelity, courage, goodness, and forgiving love. Against the darkness of Calvary, Jesus' forgiving love is the light which helps us navigate the path of suffering and death. Luke wants us to focus on Jesus' words and actions that reveal his love and compassion for all the people that he encountered on the way to the cross. It is Jesus' love and compassion that we are remembering this week. Luke's account of the Passion becomes a powerful revelation of forgiving love. The cross, a pledge of deep concern for the sinner. The early Christians saw in the passion and death of Jesus the triumph of self-sacrificing love. With the help of the scriptures, they came to understand that this was precisely how Jesus triumphed and entered into his glory. His glory could not be separated from his passion. On the surface, it may seem as if it was a defeat for Jesus. But for us who look at these events with the eyes of faith, it is a victory. It was the triumph of good over evil, of love over hate, of light over darkness, and of life over death. Luke's Passion story shows us how Jesus responded to what was done to him, how he absorbed all the violence, and having transformed it, returned it as love and forgiveness. During the Last Supper, when the disciples were arguing about which one of them was the greatest, Jesus called them to follow his example of humble service. In the Garden of Gethsemane, when he experiences his own resistance to the path of suffering and death, he kneels down and prays simply, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup away from me, yet not my will, but your will be done." This prayer gave him the courage to turn and face Judas and the crowd who came to arrest him. Then when one of the disciples struck and cut off the ear of the slave of the high priest, Jesus touches the slave's ear and heals him. During the trial at the high priest's house, after Peter denied Jesus 3 times, Jesus turns and looks at Peter with mercy and love. It is this general look of understanding and compassion that fills Peter with remorse and tears. It is Luke's version of the crucifixion and death that gives us Jesus' remarkable expression of forgiveness as he hangs on the cross. "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." For all of us who are challenged by this radical modeling of love of enemies, it is helpful to note that Jesus' statement is a prayer. Whatever may have been Jesus' interior readiness to forgive, the fact that it is as expressed as a prayer of petition gives a helpful option to the followers of Jesus who find forgiveness of the unrepentant adversaries next to impossible. What may not come spontaneously from the human heart can be requested in prayer. Then St. Luke reveals the meaning of the cross by adding a story about the dialogue of the two criminals crucified with Jesus. The one thief can only understand power in worldly terms. If you are the Christ, save yourself and us. Jesus rejects the idea that we can save ourselves. Rather, he chooses to save by sharing in the weaknesses of humankind, even accepting the darkness of the crucifixion. What is special about the second thief is his ability to see meaning of Jesus' dying. He sees it as the result not of sinfulness, but of love. Realizing that his wickedness need not keep him from God, he asks to share in Jesus' promise of everlasting life. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Then Jesus responds to the request by telling him, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Immediately following this promise, we hear Jesus' final prayer. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Thus, Luke helps us to understand that Jesus' own experience in prayer could move from the darkness of near despair to the light of complete trust in the Father. It is a message we need to hear today as we are overwhelmed by the violence and oppression inflicted on so many innocent people in our world. May the passion and death of Jesus help us to encounter his forgiving love in our lives. And may this gift help us to try to face some of the world's violence and darkness we encounter in ways that transform it and return it as love and forgiveness. Take care.